Hello, thank you for joining us for a question and answer discussion about a very special part of our community within the gardens at Town Square, the Terrace. My name is Joan Redman. I'm part of the community relations team here at the gardens at Town Square. Joining me today to help us learn more about what makes the Terrace so special, to my right is Cindy Van Hook, our community health director for all of the gardens at Town Square. Cindy is a registered nurse who's been with our company, Era Living, for 7 years, and here at the gardens for 6 years. Cindy leads our nursing team, oversees our care staff, and provides oversight of health and wellness for all of our residents. Next to Cindy is Katrina. Katrina is the Terrace manager and also a registered nurse. Katrina has been with Era Living for 6.5 years and manager of the Terrace team for about 2 years. You'll find her office right inside the Terrace as she works exclusively with our Terrace residents and team members. And then finally we have Tina Gowdy, who is our Terrace Life Enrichment Lead. Tina has a background in psychology and has worked with Terrace residents for over 10 years with over 22 years of experience working with older adults. Tina's role is to oversee all of the programs within the Terrace. And as we begin, here are a few important details to know about the Terrace. The Terrace consists of 26 private apartment homes with a 24/7 team dedicated solely to the Terrace, providing care and engagement consistently by those same team members to those who are living with advancing memory loss. Within the Terrace, our residents receive help with activities of daily living, such as dressing, bathing, medication management, and much more. But just as importantly, they also benefit from guidance throughout the day into purposeful activities, including ones that promote cognitive function. It is a secured environment to ensure safety while providing access to common areas which are easy to locate and navigate, as well as a lovely outdoor courtyard. Now, we've prepared a list of commonly asked questions that we typically get for the Terrace, and we have a lot to cover, so we're going to go ahead and get started today with Katrina answering the first question for us. Katrina, how would you describe the residents who live at the Terrace?
Very well accomplished people, both professionally and personally, fun-loving, family-oriented, and very kind. In their own way, they show that they care not only about to other residents, but also team members. In terms of level of assistance, it just all depends on, that's why we have to do the assessment beforehand so that we identify what their preferences are and then we cater around it.
Perfect. Thank you. The next question is for both Cindy and Tina. We'll have Cindy go first with this one. What do you think makes the Terrace so special?
I feel that the team members, that includes life enrichment as well as dining services, have a calling to work with this very special population, and it's evident in the care that they provide. You can tell that it's coming from their hearts, that it's not just a paycheck. I also think the food is a high priority. As a person ages, food becomes very important, and our food here at the gardens is very, very good.
Well said. Tina, what would you like to add?
Well, as you mentioned, I have 22 years experience working in this field, and so I take pride in what I do. I also treat my residents as my friend, and I'm here to support, advocate for them, and help them enjoy their days. I also believe we're with the the best friend approach that we're going to train all the staff in is very important, because it helps us connect to their life stories, and that helps us with programming. It helps us keep their individualities. It helps us keep them connected to their families. It helps us honor their accomplishments throughout life. It's also a great tool to use when someone's having a bad day. We can use that information to kind of redirect them and help them hopefully get into a better mind state.
That's great, thank you. Back to Katrina for the next question. Could you please describe the Terrace team? Who are the team members there that care for the loved ones that live in the Terrace?
Yes, so we have certified nurses assistants that will be working with the residents 24/7, who will be providing the direct care needs. We have a life enrichment team led by Tina who facilitate the fun activities throughout the day. And there's a nurse during the day, 7 days a week. And the Terrace also has its own dining staff and housekeeping staff. So, a diverse group of people that augment the experience, I think, for the Terrace residents.
And that they're dedicated to the Terrace team exclusively, which makes that very special too.
That's right.
The next couple questions are going to go to Cindy. First one is, what training do the Terrace team members have?
So for the certified nursing assistants that Katrina mentioned, their training is pretty extensive. Upon hire, there's 26 hours that is devoted towards mental health, dementia training, CPR and first aid, food handling training, best friends approach training that Tina mentioned. And then on an annual basis, the certified nursing assistants are required to get 12 continuing ed credits to support their licensure. And then to even augment that even more, Katrina and I or outside resources such as a pharmacist may come in and do some additional training throughout the year, depending on what's going on. So pretty extensive.
So the next question will also be for Cindy, and one of the things from the community relations standpoint is that when we have families come in to tour with us and explore the community, if looking at the general side of our community, looking at independent living, it's oftentimes the residents, the future residents themselves that are very involved in the tour process, very involved in the decision-making process. And what we'll talk a little bit about next is how that might be different in terms of somebody being involved to that degree when considering moving into the Terrace. Cindy, can you address that a little bit?
Yes, we try to individualize care and approaches to the resident, but this is an area that can be difficult to do depending on where they are at in the stages of dementia. For most of the residents that join our family here, it really is a best plan if the family takes over that responsibility. A lot of times, if a resident who has cognitive struggles is asked to engage in that process, it creates more anxiety for that resident. So again, depending on where that resident is, a lot of times it's best if the family who knows that resident intimately is the one who makes those decisions initially. And then once the resident moves in, then we're all about the resident and what their preferences are, what their life story is, and how we can personalize that care.
And we're going to learn a lot more about that in a couple of minutes from Tina when she gets into the details talking about the programming. Thank you. How about after a resident moves in, Cindy, what might be some things that you might expect to see?
We call this period of time a transition because typically the resident is coming from an environment where they've lived for many, many years and being put into a new environment that is very scary. So we call this the transition, and it can take anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks for a resident to feel that they can trust us. What we can see during this time is residents who are wanting to leave, repetitively saying, I need to go home, I need to go home, wanting to talk to families. There may be emotional outbursts that were never seen by this resident before. There may be some bowel or bladder incontinence that can occur. And these types of situations are expected because, again, you're taking someone out of a very set routine, which is what they need, and we're asking them to learn a new routine. So it may be during this time that we ask family members not to come in, not to join us, so that we can truly build that trusting relationship with the resident. But again, with this special area, nothing is set in stone. Everything is very organic, and so again, we will try to individualize that process as best as we can based off of the information that we obtain during the nursing assessment that Katrina referenced earlier.
Great. And then switching over to Katrina and Tina, we'll have Katrina go first on this question. How does the Terrace team help our new residents adjust to their new home?
So we strive to ensure that the same care team members are providing the assistance as much as possible, especially the first couple of weeks. We introduce them to residents that may have the same interests as them, so they can have a best friend, hopefully. Life Enrichment does a very good job in modifying activities as possible to cater to the new residents' interests. And
Yeah, you actually said some of the things I was about to say. Well, first of all, we like we said before, with the life stories, that's very important. So now we require that family members fill this out before they move in. This way, we have a base to hopefully connect with the resident, and we can encourage them to participate in programs that kind of match their interests and their needs. Usually when they first come in, I also like to take some time to chat with them, get to know them. Even though we have stuff on paper, people change with dementia, so you don't know exactly if they're going to still be in that same place in the sense of their interests and how they are with people. As my friend here, Katrina said, we definitely try to match them up with other residents who have similar interests. We set them together at meal times. Maybe I'm doing an art project and we have two artists to try to set them together so they have something in common. I try to use that life story when they are in programs. If it's their first time in program, I try to feel them out, see where they are, what level of comfort they're at. Some people are more outgoing and want to engage in a large group. Others want to be more of an observer and in the background. So I don't want to push them. We have to meet them where they're at. If this beautiful life story information is really good for programming, because if we're doing a program, for example, a resident used to own a dairy farm. I've actually done this program where I simulated milking a cow. I made a milk thing out of a glove and put fluid in there, and we were milking a cow. And so say we have a resident that used to own a dairy farm, you might say, hey, Johnny, I heard you used to own a dairy farm. I'm a city girl. Can you show me how to do this? And that helps engage them in things that are familiar to them in their life. And in general, we just like to check in with them and see how we can help them feel comfortable.
If I could add one thing on the nursing side of it, what's important for us from the life story is knowing when they get up in the morning, knowing what their favorite drink is in the morning, knowing if they want, what time they like to go to bed, because we want to simulate those specifics for that resident, again, to keep them in as much of a routine as possible. So the life story is critical for the success of everybody, for the whole team.
It sounds like those little extra things, although may not seem like much in itself, when you add that up, it overall helps with the transition, makes it that much smoother and faster
Yes.
for our residents. That's great. Okay. Back to Cindy, when we have residents move in with us, what would you say might be recommended for the move-in day? And how involved, or even not involved, does the family get in that particular role?
First off, the apartment home needs to be set up prior to the resident even coming to the unit. And most of the apartment homes, there will be a bed, a chair, bedside table, lamp, a dresser, and most likely a TV. That's just furniture. So the things that we want are family pictures, favorite pillow, favorite blanket, something that smells of the home, so that there's some familiarity with the apartment when the resident gets here. Then the next part of actually bringing the resident, it's best to bring a resident like right before lunch. Typically residents aren't tired at that time. Food, as I mentioned, is a huge attractant, and we can have the resident sit with the family for lunch, or if we feel after the assessment that it's best to just bring the resident, introduce them to other residents, and then have the family just quietly walk away. Again, that scenario will be determined kind of by that assessment and individualized needs. But in summary, it would be make sure that the apartment is set up, ready to go, that there's personal items, especially something that they can smell like a pillow or a favorite Afghan, and then transition into a lunchtime period.
Perfect. Leading beyond that, when we look at maybe the first week or two, what might that look like, Cindy, with maybe family being involved, or again, perhaps not being involved
Right.
during that initial period of time?
Again, wanting to tailor it to the specific situation, but also wanting to make sure that families' needs are met and resident needs are met, which may mean asking the family to stay away, but in that first 1 to 2 weeks, there would be a lot of communication between Katrina or my other nurse and the family. We like this communication to be by email, because usually there's more than one family member, and that family member, that primary family member, can then email it on to others. And then as the resident settles in, that communication would probably be a little bit less frequent. But with regards to the resident, we want to make sure that we're just building that trust with them. And again, as Katrina mentioned, having that consistent staffing, that is so important in those first 2 weeks of the move-in.
Okay. Katrina, when somebody is settled in and when family members might start visiting again, what might that look like in terms of a typical visit?
Well, it depends on what time of the day they come to visit. If they're coming in during meal times, they are free to come in and join their loved one to dine with them. We can reserve a table just for you and your loved one. Or if you don't mind meeting your loved one's friends, you are free to join any table. Usually people like to go that route, because again, our residents are fun-loving, so we have a lot to talk about. If you're coming in between meals, we are invited to participate in the life enrichment activities if you're comfortable to do so. Otherwise, we have a nice living room where you can privately visit. The other common areas in the gardens, you are welcome to hang out there. We have a lot of dining areas around the building too that you can go to. So
Great. And we're actually filming this in that living room space today, too. Okay, great. This one's for both Katrina and Tina. We'll start again with Katrina. How would you describe a typical day for a resident living within the Terrace?
So typically, the residents are up between 6:30 to 7:30 to get ready for the day. With that said, again, we try to cater around their preferences. Some people are late risers, like me, so we work around those preferences, and then life enrichment activities happen throughout the day, and Tina can talk more about that. But after dinner, usually around 6 o'clock, there's a movie that plays, chosen by residents. Usually, life enrichment does a very good job in asking residents what they would want to watch for that evening. And yeah, a lot of them usually are in bed around 8 o'clock, I would say. But some like to stay late, so you work around those, yeah.
Well, like my friend here said again, we have scheduled activities, but we're very flexible because we do have a lot of residents that like to sleep in, and I don't blame them. I would be sleeping in if I was here.
I'm an early bird.
I'll be partying with the night before. Yeah, so we try to start around 9:30, but like again, we usually mingle with them while they're eating, and we're trying to clean up the space to set up for programs. A lot of the morning programs are exercise related. We have yoga, we have tai chi, we have what we call sittercise. You do these moves while you're sitting down. We do chair dancing. We have a variety of exercise classes, except for Wednesday. Wednesday is our spa day. So in the morning we have facials, back massage, hand massage, and while residents are waiting for those massages, we have lots of programs and activities to do at the table. We have puzzles, word games, coloring pages, so many different variety of stuff. And then we go into lunch. So we usually stop around 11:30 after, I did miss. We do some other programs in the morning. Sometimes we do reminiscing games, we do sensory games, we do trivia, all kinds of stuff. I could go on and on. But then we usually stop by 11:30 and they get ready for lunch, and then programs start back up around 1:30. During that time, we try to do split groups where we can have lower and higher functioning dementia. This way residents get more personal care, one-to-ones, get to feel more comfortable in a smaller atmosphere. So that's always nice to be able to do that. And then usually around 3 we come back together for snacks, and sometimes those snacks are things we made in our cooking classes, which the residents usually give input of what they want to make. We also encourage, which I think I didn't mention, we do a resident council meeting, so we try to get information from them about things they want to see. And it's a little of a struggle with people living with dementia, but we try to cue them. I'll be like, what's the favorite actor you want to see on the screen, or and then I look up movies related to that person. Then around 3, after snack, around close to 3:30, we do another hour of programs, and that could be from sit-down volleyball, bocce ball. We do bowling. We also do Wii bowling and tennis. Some of them are really good at that. We also have a lot of music programs. We have entertainers that come in about once a week. We do a lot of sing-alongs ourselves. Music is so important with this population. We do music appreciation, where we talk about certain entertainers and what their life was like. We also do a lot of scenic drives during the month. Every Saturday I take my friends out to Mount Si, we go to Alki Beach, we go to Karki Park, you name it, I try to get there. We also do a lunch once a month out, so we try to go to different cultural type of foods, and I ask the residents their opinion. Family, I always like family input because that's super important, and I also invite family. They can always come on these trips with us. We also do in the summertime picnics in the park. We go out for a donut run. We go get ice cream. We have ice cream in the park. I could go on and on. So yeah, we do a lot of different programs. I'm about variety. Variety is important because everyone is so different, and we have to know the person. We have to know each person and who they are and how we can contribute to their lives in a positive way.
Well, one of the things that I'm feeling, that I'm picking up after hearing everybody share thoughts about this, is what a well-oiled machine the Terrace seems to be. That there's the necessary structure that's in place, but flexibility within that that allow for residents to just get plugged into that and keep engaged, which doesn't allow them to have as many pauses where maybe they had been confused at home or experiencing anxiety at home, that once they move in and they have a chance to adjust and adapt to their new home, they're really going to be in great hands and feel familiar with that love and that care and live very successfully here. So the next few questions, we'll keep going with Tina to talk a little bit more about the programs that we do here. What's behind developing the programs for our residents?
Okay, well, I think we might have touched upon a few of them. Once again, the life stories when they come in is really crucial. And we use that crucial information I use this crucial information in developing their program. So like, what kind of things are they gonna wanna see? And that could change over time. For example, in the past, I had residents that love table tennis, and now I don't really have a group of people that love table tennis. So I have to be flexible and move with the changes as well. We also, I look at their, sorry, I messed up. What was the question? How to develop the programs. Well, I also have a lot of years experience, and sometimes it's just about trial and error. Is this program gonna work? Sometimes you don't know until you try it, and sometimes it works, and then other times it doesn't. People, one day, you could come in one day, they love bowling. Come in the next day, they don't love bowling. So you have to meet them where they're at. That's why we're flexible, because even though I have a schedule, I am willing to change it if needed, because I want my residents happy. So that's important.
That's the priority.
Yeah.
And you've already touched on this a little bit, but if you have anything else to add in terms of things that we do to make our residents feel valued or have a sense of purpose, any additional thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's important for the more low functioning residents. When we're in a program, I try to make sure everyone is heard. Like if we're doing a reminiscent activity and say Johnny's not able to answer the question, and I know something about Johnny's life, because this is me pulling from the life stories again, I'll say, oh, did everyone know Johnny used to own a farm or something like that, and just to try to make them feel engaged and important in the group. So I like to recognize, even when I do build a man, where we call out number or letters to answer the question, lower functioning residents might not be able to answer the question, but they might be able to give me a letter. So I'm like, give me a letter, so-and-so, and I try to encourage them to be involved. I also have residents that like to do tasks, so we'll assign them tasks, like they help with setting up the tables for lunch, or some of them love to organize, so I have a closet full of things that need organized, so I'll pull something out and tell them what I need, and they'll do it, and they feel so accomplished. So that's another way we make them feel important. Let's see.
I think that's good.
That's a
So
good
a
one?
lot of great
Okay.
examples.
I was trying to think, what else did I write down here?
Those are great examples. My last question for you, Tina, would be for residents who've been maybe more private by nature for most of their lives and now moving into a more social type of setting like we've been describing, what might that look like in terms of the best fit for them with the programming that we have?
Well, once again, we always try to encourage them to be involved. And when they come in, like I said, the life story is important, because say someone loves playing tennis, so we do the Wii tennis. I'll try to cater or invite them to things I know they're going to be successful in, or they might be more motivated to do at first. And hopefully if they're successful in those things, they'll want to be included in things they might not normally come to. We also have smaller groups, which is good for people that maybe are a little more private. We also do one-to-ones if necessary. In the past, maybe not here, but I had a resident who was kind of, wanted to stay in his room. So I would go and play cribbage with him in the room, or, take some time to do something with him in the room. We currently do have a resident that loves watching opera videos, so he'll come and join in some programs, but a lot of times he likes to be in his room. So I'll order opera videos that I probably would never know about off Netflix and make sure I give it to him and he's capable, or I get staff to play it for him when he's ready. So things like that. you really just gotta meet them where they're at and at their time frame, because, you know, and everyone adjusts differently. Some people jump right in, other people take a couple weeks, you know, but we don't give up. We have hope.
It's a great message, thank you. I have one other question, this is for Katrina. And we touched on this, I think Cindy touched on this a little bit already. If you have anything that you'd like to add, maybe in terms of communication that families could expect after they move a loved one into the Terrace.
Yeah, so as Cindy mentioned earlier, the first 2 to 3 weeks will probably the most that we communicate with the family. I will be providing family updates at least once a week, more often if needed. Again, if there's a change in condition, I provide them emails usually. If it's really urgent, we do phone calls. Also, there's a receptionist in the gardens 24/7, so families can call anytime. We have nursing team members 24/7 that they can connect with. Cindy and I are available on the phone even after hours if it's something, if the nursing team needs something addressed right away, they call us. So yeah, all those sort of things.
I like to add, I also do updates about their programs. We were doing them monthly, right now I'm doing them every 2 months just because I have other stuff going on, but they get the 2 months when I do it, so they know what their loved ones are actually doing every day when they don't see them.
You send photos to
And
them
I'm
as
big
well.
on
Those
photos,
are
all about
yeah.
photos, because I think that says a lot.
It does.
Yeah.
And with regards to communication, the resident doesn't necessarily have to have their own phone, because we do have a portable phone that the family can call in that we can take to the resident. And I think that's very important too, that they get to talk to their loved ones over the phone.
And then you also don't have to worry about maybe a phone being in the apartment where someone might dial different numbers than they need to.
Yes.
And there's also an email distribution list for the Terrace nursing team that we give to the families right away.
Yes.
So that's the main way of communication, again, for non-urgent matters. So somebody's always seeing those communications. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Cindy, Katrina, and Tina, for sharing your insight with us today. And thank you, of course, for watching. To learn more about the Terrace at the Gardens at Town Square, please reach out to any of us in the Community Relations Department. You can reach us at 425-688-1900. We'll be happy to help. You've also learned a lot, or you've heard a lot about our life stories, and we would be very happy to share with you in more detail about what that looks like, as that's one of the keys to our Terrace neighborhood being so successful. One other quick note I did want to make is that depending on your timing for when you might be considering having a loved one move into the Terrace, please be aware that there may be restrictions in place due to COVID-19 precautions that are currently in place. So please be sure to check with us for any updates to learn what that might mean for you or your loved one at the time that you're considering moving in. So thank you so much again for joining us, and have a wonderful day.